2021, February 5th, 2026. God, it's already 2026, right? Um,
Very good.
yeah, going on and what? I guess the new thing that was going on this week in UFO Twitter, I'm just going to say Twitter because, or X, because that was the talk of the town, was new UFO, the new UFO footage from the infrared, it was MQ, it was a Reaper, no, I actually don't know what it was. The other one, I believe this is probably a tactical fighter spotted a UAP, and based on its movement, you see in the gun cam in the infrared just boop, there, then it's there, then it's too far to shoot, then it's gone. It was funny because when the footage went on, the Yahoo skeptics were doing mental gymnastics, were calling them birds. Birds flying in a V formation, 15,000 feet up.
Well, I do believe there are some that, there's some geese and all that might do that, in rare events, but I
But
mean, let's get serious, it's,
the item was actually shown as cold, as with the other UAPs, so I don't know, debunk that one. They were, they do mental gymnastics, and I don't, I don't really understand where. I mean, after I heard Gary Nolan, where he gets frustrated with debunkers, is that they will. This is actually their tactic: is they will use one scenario where everything fits, but ignore everything else. Um,
yeah, it's like curve fitting,
yeah,
in math, yeah, it fits that one event, but it doesn't do the general case.
and then people were mad. People were mad because the infrared cam wasn't in 4K, and I'm like, they said it was in 180p, and I said, okay, one, I don't know if you've used an infrared cam before. They are not in high definition. If they are using what's known as um, an IR filter, which is a cheap way of doing night vision, which is typically, I'm not sure if the people that get mad at the infrared videos understand how a real infrared sensor works. The one that actually detects. There's actually two different kinds. There's optical, and then there's ones that'll interpret was it infrared photons into heat signatures. And then there's ones that do vice versa. But the ones that the military use are the ones that will I believe they don't use optical sensors for their infrared. I believe they use the other kind. Uh,
Well, it's almost a combination. It's you're seeing, partial. I think a mix of cases. They'd be low light, whatever they can pick up, plus infrared. It's a merging of images,
yeah, but when you
to
have a
give you
gun,
the new stuff.
when you're using a gun cam, the only thing that matters is that you can see the target. It doesn't matter if you can see his pick in his nose, dude. You know what I mean? The army doesn't care. The military doesn't care about that.
Yeah, I would think the resolution has improved, though. I mean, it's just that's why fuzzy pictures. Well, unless they're of high-speed craft, are suspicious. Because it's like, okay, we've we're past the Polaroid stage and the early digicams. It's like, I mean, it's just odd how everything else can look so crisp and clear,
Well,
and
here's an.
then,
Go ahead.
well, yeah, it doesn't make sense. It's like so many things are crystal clear, but others, we can't get a good picture of a UFO. It's suspicious. Yes.
Well, there are two things that I do want to talk about around this. I will get into that on another topic. There is a reason for the blurry and fuzzy pictures. Um, One other example where people are not really educated when it comes to photography is night vision optics, and they don't understand how it works. True night vision, the ones that the military use, are all analog. There's no digital. None of it. None of it's digital. And what they do is they have an optical sensor through a narrow tube that will use phenon or phonon gas or something like that. And when the low ambient photons will hit the phenon gas, it will light up the display, and I believe they interpret it into some sort of digital representation of what the sensor is seeing, so that you can see it. But if you ever look at real night vision, you'll see the crispy critters like you do on an analog TV set. That's because it is analog.
Yeah, that's that smearing and all. They can get rid of a lot of that, but um,
With software filters,
it
yeah,
just
you can clean up with software filters, but
yeah, you clean up the display. And
yeah, but out of the box, it's the technology is relying on an analog signal. It's not interpreting anything. If the only thing that is digital, if it has if the sensor is hooked up to a computer that's interpreting the image into a display, which a lot of them do, um, the high end. I don't believe the military uses those. Though I think the only the high end, fishermen people might use something like that, or the guy who can spend $30,000 on some bullshit like that. But actually the new thing with night vision is not the anything like that. Actually, the new one is what the military is doing, is where they combine the night vision with the true infrared heat, and will digitally overlay it over whatever, kind of like an augmented reality, where you can see the outline of something, because it's using two different technologies and software filtering, so you can see what target that's moving in the night. It's actually
I would
quite
expect
cool
them to
looking.
use like spacecraft. When they go out, they'll have like 5 or 6 different cameras. To get different wavelengths and when you look at the pictures, they all look different. It's just like invisible light and then the high end, low end. So you need to merge all those pictures. When you really see these super high res ones, it's a combination of everything.
Well, they also have ultraviolet cams. They don't tell you about that, but they don't use that on. I think they only use those in like specific military craft. I don't think it's
I
common, but they
I
do
frequently,
have
yeah.
them. Yeah, they do
But
have them.
the thermal, I mean, that gives you that gives anything that's living, well, for sure, a warm blooded, you're gonna spot, and I would think even cold blooded animals, you're gonna have a difference in temperature that's gonna give you away. That's why thermal is so good. And I've
And the
seen older uh, thermal videos of UFOs, but like lately, nothing new. In a new thermal camera. There's old stuff from the 70s or 80s, and that's impressive enough. But I haven't seen anything.
Yeah, you're right. I mean that's the thing, is like, even with this new stuff that's coming out, I really haven't seen anything as crazy. I mean, yeah, yes, there are. Actually, that's not true. There is stuff that's out there, but it's not really mainstream. And there's one thing I will want to get into. I was listening to a Canadian. I think Spaced Out Radio is also on YouTube, and I think it's actually a radio station in Canada, somewhere. I just not sure the province. And I was listening to two physicists who had even wrote a paper to get peer reviewed about the about this phenomenon, about taking pictures of UAP, and suspecting that um, the gravity drive is distorting time and space, and they were using some of the pictures that I've even showed on the MQ-9 Reaper drone with the orb, how this seems like there's a black distortion around it. And what they were explaining is that the distortion is probably coming, a distortion of light is coming from the um, gravity drive, which is either creating its own space or bending light around it in a really bizarre way. And that's where we get this fuzzy thing. And they've actually kind of got it down to a little science. And they said if you can take a photograph of a UAP at the right angle, wherever, if the gravity drive is not positioned in the right way, let's say if you're directly above or to the side or whatever is this thing is not using to keep itself in this particular place, you would get a proper undistorted photograph, which we've seen in the Portuguese a black and white photograph over the Atlantic. I think from a B 2 bomber or B or is it B 29? There's a famous aerial picture, black and white, and it's very clear from the old big bomber days. Um, I think it's Portugal or something like that. And that would make sense. I mean, because you're directly over it. Um, there's another one that's quite good. There's an analog VHS video from '93, something like that, of a UFO that is tilted to one side, and you can see the whole saucer. And you can hear, and it's a good evidence of like real video because you can hear other people in the background reacting to the thing that they're seeing, and you can tell as light as day, it's a flying saucer. It's not a balloon.
Yeah, there's some like surveillance aircraft, going back to the 70s and 80s. I remember one from Costa Rica where they just, as clear as day, there's just a saucer, with a shadow and everything on the ground. I mean, so it's not something fake. If it is, it's very elaborate.
It seems
And you
like
see those occasionally. It's just, well, I don't know.
maybe analog imagery was better. Who knows?
Uh, well, yeah, as far as color, I mean, I can say that in a way. Old, if you're familiar, like 35 millimeter film from like the 60s and 70s, like Kodacolor. I swear the old cameras captured colors and real life better than digital imagery. Unless you really get the colors right there's something about the digital cam that throws colors off. Even with all
Yeah,
their
I
corrections. I don't know how else to describe it, but it's just
I do agree
if you
with you.
see old films done in like Technicolor or something, and you look at them, and then at today's stuff, and I swear they look better. It just
Well,
the way
yeah,
they capture the colors and everything is something about it.
people think that 8K is the future or 6K, and I go, dude, the average human can barely see past
Yeah,
1080p.
yeah, I know. It's just you're past what's definable. Uh,
That's why it looks fake.
well, yeah, and the digital, has a look about it. That's it's too crisp. You know, even analog kind of captured like your eyesight. Everything's just a little bit fuzzy. Unless you have the best eyesight. I mean, there's always that some kind of fuzziness or shading. It just digital photographs is like, especially reproductions or stuff that's recreated, just looks fake. It's just too crisp and clear.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, I mean, maybe that's what I gotta invest in is like, because I see these things, I see those orbs, not the orbs. I don't see any things like that, but I do live in a hot spot, and I have been in the Palos Verdes areas quite often, and it's often at some really strange hour, And I swear to God, like sometimes I'll be like, bro, that I hope to God that was a kid throwing around some toy. You know what I mean? But you know, you're like second guessing yourself, like nothing moves that fucking quick. You know what I mean? So
Well, you just
I
have like well, the best way, well, and to catch meteors too, is like you just have a camera, just aim it out certain directions,
yeah.
pick two or three directions and then just, go back and see what you see, just
Well,
because
you
you
gotta.
sit there and wait, man, your eyes will glaze over. It's like watching meteors or something. It's just that you can only do that so long, and then it just, uh,
Well, you
you
got to
just
do it.
lose it.
Yeah, you got to do it like either you got to dilate the lens and or get a night vision filter, but you got to get a DSLR, quite fancy one. I might as well just do that.
Well, yeah, and then,
I'm
well, even
always
for the
I'm
drones,
always
you see
back
this.
there.
They got dual cameras now. I mean, you do it invisible, and then the infrared cams, and the same little drone pics. I mean, stuff's gotten cheap. Is now the resolution, it'd be a different matter, but the basic cameras and all are out there fairly cheap. It's just doing it and then going through the videos. It's like anything, you got to make an effort at it and spend hours, going through all the damn videos, looking for stuff, and
Always seeing stuff back there. It's like I'll be driving and then
or
I'll see this like light go. I'm like, oh man, I'll like stop in the middle of the road. There'll be nobody there. It'll be the middle of the night, and I'll be like, all right, I hope to God that was a kid's toy because I should have had my camera out. It's second guessing yourself.
I never I never seem to have a camera ready, or for stuff like that.
All those orb things, they're fucking like like out of your. That's the only time I ever catch anything. It's like it'll be like it moves so fast. You like are you you saw something, but you don't know what it was.
You know, something registers. Uh,
That's kind of what you see in a lot of the videos of the orbs too. Like there's the
yes,
golf.
it's not like there are just a lot of them around all the time. I mean, if you
No,
do see one, yeah, they'll like sit someplace and then, off they go. It's just not. It's almost like a hummingbird. They don't stick around very long, and
yeah,
then
they're
they
gone.
zip
Yeah.
away.
What was it? I heard another rumor from that congressman. What was his name? Chubby guy. He's on the UAP task. He's not the UAP task, but he's on that UA declassifying team with Luna. Another
Hmm.
rumor that Trump will disclose UAPs this year. I've heard June or July.
Oh shit! Yeah.
I don't
Let's see how many
know.
things has he been. Was he going
Let
to expose?
well, let's look at it this way. Okay, historically, in July 1952, there were UFOs flying over the White House, and it was all in the news, and they tried to make people believe it wasn't there. And okay, this year we had the leak from Rhea on Reddit about um, talking about how weapons, scalar weapons given to us from aliens would be in the news, and probably the Havana syndrome devices, which the Russians probably. We know that the Russians, we know for a fact that the Russians were reverse engineering alien weaponry. Um, there's quite a few documents on that. So it doesn't surprise me that in 2022 DHS had acquired this from some Russian spies for a good price, and now they're calling the weapon the Obliterator. Trump action accidentally did a Jimmy Carter, and yeah, remember when Jimmy Carter accidentally bleeped out the Stargate program? So they used psychic spies in the Iran Contra shit. They used some psychic
Oh,
spies. Oh yeah, he accidentally bloopered it. And Trump accidentally bloopered the obliterator, which is probably alien tech. And basically, our biggest thing is that we use something that we've been using for espionage to kill people. We strapped him on a drone, And we figured that if we put them on a couple hundred drones, it incapacitates the enemy. So,
Yeah, I see advanced tech. I can't say I've seen anything, next level. I'm comparing like our present next level, which is whatever we're at, Gen 5 or 6 and fighters and all this. I just, other than going to UFO and new tech, or unmanned, that's that's the wave of the future there.
yeah.
Yeah, I just don't know. And I'm not seeing. I want to see some kind of more disclosure. It's like, geez, it's like, well, all these old stories, I have to dig up old stories.
Well, I mean, there is stuff going around. It's just that the information that's out there, people don't go in. It's like a book. You could have all of the secrets of the history of the United States, but if you put it in 500 pages, nobody's going to read it.
Um,
That's been going out there. There is a channel out there called UAP GURB where he is doing a damn good job of exposing the legacy program. But the problem is that he's like me. He can be like go super ADHD focus or autism mode, and it's 3 hour videos. You know, but he's doing phenomenal work on the boogeyman is being exposed. Like, but
yeah, I should
what?
look for more like MUFON reports. If I, what things they're investigating. I just haven't heard much from them or really anybody or any conference going on. Or just,
It's kind of whimpering down. I think the American public has lost its oomph in the whatever. Our only hope is that Trump will say something. I mean, but for me, it's okay if he doesn't, because I don't need a government telling me what I already know to be true. And I'd be actually surprised if they knew more than what's been speculated. I mean, I would be surprised if they knew a few things or here or there, but um, if they actually knew the whole, if they knew all, well, if it was like Men in Black, I'd be surprised. The movie.
yeah, no, that's well, that might have been the case. That's almost a character of how people used to uh, wear clothes in the 60s. That's kind of an IBM look from the 1960s. They wore suits like that. It was white with a black suit. I mean, that was an IBM thing at a time. That's what that kind of reminds me of. But um, yeah, I think it's the entrenched bureaucracy that knows where all this stuff is, or the defense contractors. It's not your elected officials. They're not there long enough.
No.
They handle their business, but they're not in the business of hiding everything.
Well, yeah,
They're in the
it's
business of trying to discover, and then nobody tells them shit, and then they just, you only get so far.
and everybody thinks it's Lockheed Martin. There's more than that. It's Patel. There's Sandia Labs. Um, who
General
else?
Dynamic,
Yeah, General Dynamics, EG&G. There's quite, I think there's about over the years there was before the collapse of a lot of the companies there was about 50. Now there's about 20 of them.
yeah,
But
yeah, Teledyne, Morton Thackle. You put all the space ones in there too, but
yeah, and these
yeah,
these
there's just
these
hundreds,
get,
man.
yeah, and they really, there's only a few agencies these get through. It's the DOE, um, we got the NRO, we got the off, there's a few offices of the CIA that are involved in Office of Global Access. Then you have, I believe there are certain ones within the Air Force, but people think it's like some shadow hoop-de-hoo whatever, but it's not as crazy as people would think. And then the one thing that I do think is going on that people don't agree with me, is I do believe that there are agents working on behalf of the UFO things. I do believe. Some of that has gone on,
Aliens.
in, yeah, in the past, especially with some of the Men in Black encounters where, um, but there were a few creepy stories where it seemed there was something they were not human. They didn't know what to do with food or carrying around weird objects.
Yeah, that would fit a government like what the cops do. They just kind of checking you out, throwing you into a situation like that where they can kind of scare you and then just see how you react. With men that are with guys that are dressed like that. See, it's a technique, not a terrorist technique, but just like just seeing how you react. It's a psychological type thing.
And a lot of times, if they are government, what I've heard from quite a few sources is that most of the intelligence agencies don't have the authority to do stuff what they're doing. You're allowing them because you're not questioning their authority. They don't have the
Well, that's
authority to do a lot of what they're doing. They
yeah.
say they
An
do. Yeah.
executive agency is kind of they're the guys that are they're their own law. Nobody's there to cross check them. They're the guys that are supposed to be the good guys on the up and up. But I mean, let's get serious. You know, you're counting on him to be a good guy. I just don't know how often that happens. It's like there's so much corruption. It's like we seem to get organized well on corruption. That seems to happen pretty easily, but
Oh,
the rest of it slips through the cracks.
speaking of stuff shady and probably related to the government, um, I've been talking about the leakers on Reddit quite often, and I go back. Remember how I tell you that you need to write down and screenshot or data save stuff? Well, a lot of those older leaks, especially remember the one from the alien, the guy that said he worked at a level 4 lab at Fort Detrick. Um,
Oh yeah, yeah.
yeah. Okay, well that whole thread is gone. It's been removed. It's been removed from Reddit.
Well, they seem to be scrubbing the internet in general. It's targeted. It's just certain topics and ideas and scientific topics as well. But it does seem like you can't find. It's hard to find some things.
Especially
Extremely hard, and that
especially
shouldn't be. It's like,
well, because you know it's truth. You know it's truth when it starts disappearing from the internet. There, even Bob Lazar's stuff was hard to find until, people started making it big. But once Bob Lazar stuff's become popular again, his stuff starts disappearing off the internet. Um, well,
yeah, it's just it's a well, it's like the what do you call it? The scrubbing of Wikipedia. There's efforts by certain groups to sanitize the internet in the ways they like. Now, I'm sure every country does this as well. What they want you to see as the population.
you think that's bad? Yeah,
Uh,
I've seen shit like that even on God, they thought you were so retarded. It's on these closed nets. Um, just stuff that didn't make any sense, claiming to be news agencies when you know it's an intelligence agency on a peer-to-peer network. I've seen stuff like, yeah, you're right. There is stuff out there. 100%.
yeah, just weird operations. I mean, I ran across one. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police were going into rural areas and then just like making Bigfoot sounds, trying to scare extremely rural residents, with various psychological operations for some reason. And I don't know how they got busted for this, but it's just like, it's like, what the hell are you guys doing?
Drinking too much
Is that really
Canadian whiskey.
necessary? I mean, yeah, your Canadian version of the CIA trying to drive some, rural family crazy so then you can, drug them and do who knows what's with them. I mean, what are y'all up to? So you never really know what's what. Yeah, I mean, throw that in the mix with all the UFO stuff. You really don't know what the hell's going on.
Speaking of what, I don't know what the hell's going on. What's up with the Epstein documents, dude? And the new videos. But
Uh,
Nobody's been arrested.
No, it's this is one of those things where it's so high level involving the royals and everything. You get to know about it, but you don't get to do anything about it. That happens a lot, you know, and it's happening more, more and more in every one of these financial. You know, it used to be they would, throw you few scapegoats, in a finance, throw a couple guys in jail for something, in all these downturns. But now it's like nobody gets in trouble. You've gotten so familiar with corruption. It's like a safety blanket. Everybody just grabs on. It's something they know. They don't know. Hey, if we were all good guys and doing the right thing, we don't know what that would be like.
Then
We know what corruption's like.
I heard Pam Bondi was releasing or the DOJ was releasing documents that we know were there have been altered. We know that's been going on too.
Yeah, and what you never get back to is that Donald Trump was a confidential human source against Jeffrey Epstein. This goes back to his, first, DA contacts there, whatever Palm County, Florida.
It doesn't
The
surprise me.
guy they got
He
his
was an
first snitch
informant.
dog.
He was building buildings. I'm pretty sure he was dealing with the mafia at some point. He had to have been an informant on some level. You can't you can't you can't build anything in a big city without running into organized crime, you know?
Yeah, and that was his dad. Kind of, really got him. His dad was already into that before Trump came along or Donald came along. But yeah, it's just well, and then Trump's been selling, known to have sold his penthouses and all these places to Russian mafia figures and all. It's part of their slush fund and laundering money. But being able to come in here and buy a expensive piece of property like that. So yeah, it's all you're in the mix. You weren't friends with Jeffrey, best friends with Jeffrey Epstein for like what 10 or 15 years, and all of a sudden, just what. And then you got to remember, the things Epstein says. He's like that Donald Trump stabs his best friends in the back. He
Yeah,
stabs them in the back harder. That's what he said. So, you know, that's what you're dealing with here. You sort it out. I don't know, man.
I don't
But I know
know.
this much for sure. We're just, little pukes, little peons who get to know all this is going on, but never get to do anything about it.
No, yeah,
That's it.
that's I think that was a deal with the documents. I don't think anybody can be prosecuted. I think it's all done.
Yeah. At some point, they're going to just kind of, the dragging on and doing it this way becomes, we're dumping this and then we're just kind of done with it. This shit's so old, 7, 10 years, whatever it is now. It's even longer than that, that we're done with it. And then you'll be like the UFOs and the rest of it. You'll never really get to know or JFK assassination, especially. You'll just never get to know the truth because apparently we're not worthy. You, as a citizen, are not worthy.
What? Oh, I gotta go in. I have to go in a few minutes.
That's
Uh,
what I know. That's
yeah.
my
All
my
right. So, we'll do the next show on the 19th then. All right.
19th. Very good. Sounds